Wow, wow, wow. Man, what a night of fights, man. Looks like I'm glitching a little bit here, but man, first of all, let's talk the Devin Haney Linares fight. All right, number one, you got people that are gonna shit on Devin Haney because he got hurt a little bit towards the end of the fight. Let me tell you something about this fight, man. Devin Haney completely dominated 90% of this fight. So anybody who wants to shit on Devin Haney right now because he got hurt and survived, isn't that what you want to see a fighter do? You want to see a fighter survive, right? So for the first time in his career, it was the 10th round. Okay, Linares caught him, right? Caught him with a shot, hurt him at the end of the 10th, wobbled him to the corner. Linares was talking shit as he should, right? And then comes out for the 11th round. You could tell Haney was wobbly, right? But he survived. But you know what he did? Pretty much from rounds 1 to 10 into the very end, he worked off the jab, kept the jab in his face all night, prevented Linares from being able to put the pressure that he was trying to press. He couldn't get his timing down. And not only that, Devin Haney did multiple types of fight styles in this fight. He worked off the jab. He threw combinations. He stayed in the pocket. It reminded me a little bit of the Canelo Mayweather fight at times. You know, not quite as precise, but he was doing the same thing. He was staying in the pockets, working off, flicking back, keeping the jab in his face the entire time. He dominated the fight. He bullied Linares against the ropes many, many times during the fight. Okay. He dominated. I mean, this was almost a shutout for Devin Haney. Linares landed some power shots here and there, few and far between. Had him hurt at the end of the 10th, hurt bad. And when I say hurt bad, I mean hurt bad. The entire 11th round, Devin Haney couldn't do nothing but hold, but he was being smart. Think about this for a second. This kid is 22 years old, okay? Fighting a 35-year-old veteran, okay, who's fought the best fighters in the world, okay? And he dominated him with slick defense, a jab, bullied him, did every type of style you can imagine, anything that Linares did to try to compensate for what Haney was doing. Haney was one step ahead of him, okay? So 11th round, very shaky. 12th round, came back out, won most of the round. Okay, Linares caught him. Then Linares seemed like he hurt him again with about 45 seconds left, and Haney held on. Did a lot of holding towards the end of the fight, okay? People are they were booing him. How do you boo this man when this man turned around and won damn near every round and dominated? Oh, he didn't get a knockout, so let's cry about that. Let me tell you something, man. He let his hands go. He stayed in the pocket, and Linares barely threw combinations the entire fight. And anybody who knows Linares, he's a combination puncher, you know? Also, hold on for a minute here. Let's also talk about my man NONITO DONAIRE, because that just ended too. He gets the knockout. I got to double check the round, but NONITO DONAIRE, the oldest bantamweight champion in boxing history now, okay? I mean, man, listen, you got to give flowers to Donaire. Donaire has been down, counted out, and then keeps coming back. His last fight, he put on a great performance against Inoue. A lot of people don't know these fighters because they're light fighters and they don't pay attention. Most people who, even casuals at times, know who NONITO DONAIRE is, but I mean, he just became the WBC bantamweight champion again, 38 years old, knocked out a young beast, 17-0, 13 knockouts, some shit like that, you know? Man, I don't know, man. We got anybody talking? Nobody's talking to me, man. All I'm gonna fucking tell you is that you better respect Devin Haney. Okay, I don't care that he got hurt. That happens in boxing. You fight great fighters, you're gonna get hurt, right? That's something that's gonna happen in the sport of boxing. All right. So don't take away from a great performance because he got clipped and survived. All right. He didn't get knocked out. He survived. 22 years old. Okay. So cut that hate and bullshit out. Fucking weirdos. Fucking weirdos booing him in the crowd. I mean, maybe, you know, COVID, this, that. People are restless. I don't know, man. But that was some bullshit to see Devin Haney get booed at the end of that fight because Devin Haney put on a clinic. A 22-year-old put on a clinic against a 35-year-old veteran who still looks like he got plenty left in the tank. Devin Haney just fought perfect fight, changed styles many times during the fight, like I referenced before, and looked great, you know, and looked great. The pre-fights were great too. You know, I'll do a quick run through on the undercard of that fight. I got to catch up on the undercard of the Donaire fight. I did catch most of the Donaire fight. He dominated. I think I want to say it was a 4th round knockout, but I don't want to say the wrong thing because I wasn't paying attention to the rounds as much because I was watching the end of the Haney Linares fight while also keeping it up. But he got him against the ropes, landed a couple shots, caught him with a beautiful left uppercut, and just finished Obale off. I think that's his name. Obale. That's some French shit, right? That's white too, right? But I still can't say it. You gotta give me a white ass. You gotta give me like Chandler Riggins or some shit. I could say that shit with my white ass. But so in the undercard for the Haney Linares fight, first of all, first of all, we're gonna shout out my man Reshat Mati, the Albanian bear. Okay, Staten Island stand up. So I made sure I put on this hat. My man Fest Taylor, hit him up. Clothing, video work, anything. Fest Taylor, hit him up. The man does amazing work from clothes to videos to features, whatever you need. But my man Reshat Mati, right? The Albanian Mati, the Albanian bear. All right, my man's from Staten Island. He's 10-0 with 7 knockouts. I think that includes tonight's fight. He did not get a knockout tonight. It was one of his hardest fights, you would say, to a degree. Went the whole decision. You know, he won a unanimous decision, but he was pressed many times throughout the fight. It was a tough fight. He got a good win. So salute Staten Island, stand up if you see him fighting on another card. I think most of the time he'll be on dazn cards, but show love. Got to support local people. I don't care if it's hip hop, comedy, fighters, support local talent, independent business, local talent, small businesses, all that good shit. He had, I think, 4 or 5 KOs in a row, went to decision, looked good though. My man also prospect coming up, Khalil Coe. He looked great. He was landing body work from the opening bell. Just body work. He dropped him twice in the first round. He got him out of there in the second round. He's a former Olympic hopeful, Khalil Coe. He looked great. I mean, that's all you can say. He showed some good boxing skills too. He wants to show people he's not just a power puncher, but power's what got dude out of there tonight, but also showed some boxing skill within it. He's also a good story because, I mean, depending on how you look at it, but I mean, to me, he's a victim of circumstance to a degree. So somebody tried robbing him a couple years back, right? And he disarmed the dude, fucked him up, took the gun, but didn't call the cops. You know, some people, that's just not what they do. He should have threw the gun. He didn't throw the gun, got caught with the gun on him, sat in jail for 16 months. And Eddie Hearn hit him up and he signed him. So I think he's 2-0 now. Pretty sure. 2 knockouts. I'm pretty sure that's his rundown there. So then we had the fight. We had the dude Martin J. Ward with Azinga Fuzile. They had a good fight. Calculated first 4 rounds, and that actually turned into a really nice fight. Azinga dropped Ward in the 4th round with a short check right hook. Flash knockdown, didn't really hurt him. He was right back up. Ward then looked good for a couple rounds after the knockdown. You know, he came right back. Didn't really hurt him bad, the knockdown. And then he hurt Ward again in the 6th, but didn't drop him. And then Ward seemed like he got a leg injury in the 7th round, right? And then he just couldn't do nothing about, with his hands because his legs weren't cooperating with him. And then he got rocked with a nice shot. So it wasn't only the leg mixed with getting rocked with a nice shot, and he got finished off in the 7th. So the fight of the night, arguably too, Shane Mosley Jr., man. My man Shane Mosley Jr., he's been looking real good in his past couple fights. Obviously, he's the son of the legend, Hall of Famer, Shane Mosley. He's not blessed with the same skills as his father, but he's had a decent career. 17-3 coming into this fight. For the guy, Jason Quigley, I think 18-1 coming into this fight. Only lost against a decent dude, Toreno Johnson. And man, close fight. Quigley took it in the later rounds, maybe, but it was a close fight. I mean, a 10-round fight wasn't a championship fight, I don't think. So 10 rounds. You could have had it a draw. I think one judge had it a draw, and then 2 judges had it for Quigley. I might have leaned a little more towards a draw, but I'm also a big Shane Mosley fan, so I might be a little biased there. I might have to watch it back. But regardless, Shane Mosley Jr. looked great tonight. Quigley looked great tonight. It was a back and forth fight the entire time. Both guys were hurt multiple times, and it was just an entertaining fight. You know what I mean? Great undercard and prelims overall for the night. And then there was a female fight for the female boxing match for the co-main event. Chantelle Cameron versus Melissa Hernandez. Cameron was the champ. It was for her belt. She dominated Hernandez the entire fight. She was just whooping her fucking ass. Shit was terrible. It looked like a domestic situation between a lesbian couple. You know what I mean? Like she was just bang, bang. I shouldn't say that, right? It's just a joke. Don't get upset. I love everyone. You know what I mean? But anyway, shit looked bad. You know what I mean? She was busting her up the whole fight. It got stopped in the 5th round, I think, but at a weird time. Like it wasn't even one of the times where she was really putting it on her. You know, she hit her with, you know, she was whipping her the whole time for the most part, but it wasn't like a time where you'd expect it to end. It's a championship fight. You should always give it a little more time than that, you know, but at the end of the day, Hernandez had no chance of winning. He might have been saving her from a permanent injury or future brain issues or, you know, truthfully, you know what I mean? But great fight. That was one of the best fights of the night too. The female fight, the Mosley fight, and the Haney Linares fight were all top, you know, high level fights that at least went a bunch of rounds. The other fights were a little quicker. The Reshat Mati fight that did go the distance. I can't remember if that was a 6-rounder or an 8-rounder, but yeah, man. And Chris Mannix, man. There's times where he gets, you know, I could deal with him on the DAZN broadcast, but listen, I don't know if it was him or Todd Grisham. It might have even been Todd Grisham. They were talking about the fight between Ward and what's my man's name? Ward and Azinga Fuzile, right? And they were like, "Oh, I'm worried this is going to be a boring fight." But you're selling boxing, and even if it's true to a degree, some fights might be a little more boring than others. Want to see if we got a couple people liked it. Much love, appreciate all of you, man. Cooper, much love, my brother. Follow, subscribe, all that good shit. Let's talk boxing. I'm always down. We could always go live and talk one day, but I appreciate you, man. But what was I saying? What was I talking about? See, I'm too much of a fucking brain dead motherfucker. Oh, Chris Mannix, right? Or Grisham, I'm not sure. Mora blamed Mannix, but it might have been Grisham. But Mannix is always saying some dumb shit too. Now, a tactical boxing match isn't boring. You understand? That's not boring. That's tactical boxing. And then that fight ended up being a great fight. There was 2-3 rounds that were a little tactical, and then we ended up with a 7th round knockout. Yeah, okay, there was a little bit of a leg injury involved, but either way, Ward was fading. You know, and that's not the way you should talk about boxing. If you're on a broadcast, you want to say that behind the scenes, this is that. And I guess maybe fans like the transparency of somebody saying that, like, oh, this fight is boring. But imagine you're trying to get people into the sport. And then you got one of these knuckleheads, Chris Mannix, who got some of the most wretched scorecards you're ever going to hear at times. I think tonight he did decent. But I think Chris Mannix worked for Sports Illustrated back in the day. I remember seeing his name on the little articles, you know. And you know, that's cool. I like seeing your name in print. But there's some guys that get into boxing, right, especially fight sports, which is different than basketball. You're talking about men physically fighting and putting their life on the line when they get in the ring. I understand you got to keep some of the dudes that are like dweebs, you know, well, they're a little cunty, you know, you got to keep them around. Like, I understand how that works, you know, but I don't know. Mannix gets under my skin at times. He's a big Andre fan. I like that. You know, he does say some things that gets me back on his side. But overall, Chris Mannix, first of all, you got to check your eyes on some of your cards because some of your cards are fucking crazy. And then second of all, don't go out of your way to criticize the sport or the fighters as much as you do at times. I understand you got to be critical in a way. And there's always that guy. Back in the day, it was, what's my man, Gray, Jim Gray, right? He used to get into it sometimes with the fighters and purposely be a little bitch ass in a way. And, you know, Merchant also used to get into it with dudes at times. So maybe that's like the role that Mannix is filling in over there at times. And Grisham is like that a little bit too. But Grisham's just more of like a little announcer. Like, he's more in the cut. Mannix is a little more vocal at times. And maybe he shouldn't be at times, if you ask me. You know what I mean? You know, it's one thing if a guy's a former fighter, he's you know, like he's making a mistake or his assessment's off and this, that. But you know that man could defend himself in a situation. But Chris Mannix be disrespectful sometimes. And I could guarantee you, Chris Mannix catches most of these guys in a dark alley, and probably a lot of fight fans in a dark alley, and he's going to be like, oh, I didn't really mean it like that. And, but Chris Mannix, you've done a lot for sports, so not totally shitting on you, but you got to relax, though, bro. You got to relax with some of those cards and some of the shit you say, man. But overall, Linares got robbed. I don't know who Joe Key is over here, and I know he ain't serious. My man Joe Key said Linares got robbed. I know he's not serious, you know what I mean? But it's still funny as fuck, But listen, Linares, he showed that he got plenty left in the tank. If you ask me, I see plenty left in the tank with Linares. I see him getting another fight. I see him beating a lot of 135 pounders. He might even beat beat Devin Haney if they happen to fight again. It's not impossible because he showed he could hurt him. If you show you could hurt a guy, then there's always a chance you could beat him. But let me tell you something, man. Aside from that moment, aside from the end of the 10th round and the beginning of the 11th round, no fucking chance. They could fight 40 times. And Linares is losing every time, and I'm a huge Linares fan. I love Jorge Linares, and that's why I give Devin Haney so much respect for this win, because this is against a high level fighter, and he made Linares not look as high level as he is. He made him look more pedestrian. You know what I mean? Easy belt Linares almost got knocked out. Look, almost got the knockout belts. Yeah, hell yeah. El Campo Johan or Johan 22, however you say it, man, you got to white it up for me a little bit. Yeah. But 100%. If he hurt Haney 15 seconds earlier, 20 seconds earlier, Linares might win that fight. Point blank period. You're on point about that. You know what I mean? You're on point about that. If it happened, yeah, exactly. He got robbed in high school, maybe, Cooper, right? Right, facts. But either way, Linares didn't get robbed, though, overall in a decision. First of all, it's not even a knockdown. You know what I mean? So you can't even give him a 10-8 round, or anything like that. So there's no 10-8 rounds. So clearly we know Haney won it when it goes to a decision. I know people can talk shit and get upset, of course, you know what I mean? And I'm a huge fan of my man Linares. And Haney for sure was saved by the bell, and there's no denying that. What was it, like 3 seconds left? You know what I mean? He went down like he was doing the twist, motherfucker. He did the quick limbo real quick. You know what I mean? He was hurt. And then the 11th round, like that's really being hurt. It's one thing like a guy could get hurt a little bit, 10, 15 seconds to recover. Usually, if a guy gets hurt at the end of a round and has the whole time in between the rounds, a good amount of the time, there'll be a significant recovery by the time the bell starts again. But there was not a significant recovery. Haney was on sea legs for the first like 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe the whole round. You know what I mean? To be honest with you. My man, he said, easy belt for Teo Kambosos. Joe Key said, yeah, I mean, definitely for Teo. I got to see how Kambosos, like I've seen him fight in the past, but I want to see what he looks like against Teofimo before I can say it's an easy belt for him. You know what I mean? Because one thing we got to say about Haney, skill for skill, speed, the ability to stay in the pocket. I mean, he showed a real good ability for most of this fight to stay in the pocket, not leave the pocket, evade and throw back and work off the jab and keep the distance and the middle of the ring or wherever they were in the ring for most of the fight. So skill wise, it doesn't mean he got a glass jaw just because, Linares can punch, you know what I mean? Linares isn't a bum, you know what I mean? So, I think Teo most likely gets rid of Haney. Good chance. Campbell, I don't know. I want to see what he looks like against Teo, who wins. I mean, listen, from what I've seen so far, I'm saying Teofimo beats him, right? Kambosos. How you say his name? I'm not. One thing about this, bro, I'm gonna start doing these more often, like in like a professional manner. So I'm gonna get better with the names because I'm horrible with names I don't know already. But Kambosos, I think right now, I would say Teofimo, but I need to see what happens in the fight. It's hard to say. Right now, Teofimo has fought better competition. He's looked great in every fight except the fight against the Asian dude. I can't remember his name off the head right now, but that's the only fight that Teofimo didn't look dominant in, you know, and then some of the rounds against Lomachecko, of course. So for now, I'm favoring him, but once the fight starts, we got to see. We got to see what happens when the fight gets going. You know, that's how we'll really know. Yeah, oh man, Teofimo Lopez versus Ryan Garcia. That right there, man, we need that. We need that. And I don't want to hear people talking shit about Garcia either. Oh, he said he's taking some time to get his head together, his mind together. You know, I hate people that talk. Listen, it's good, man. When I was young, when I was that age, all that shit was frowned upon, right? You're not supposed to talk about mental health or being sad or being down. You know what I mean? I'm like the product of the most toxic masculine era in history, or one of them. You know what I mean? And I love it. You know what I mean? Just maybe the man I am. But I think it's a beautiful thing that he can be honest with himself, you know what I mean? And say, listen, I got to take a little time, get my head together. You know, I don't think he's trying to dodge people or anything like that. I think Garcia, once he took that fight with Campbell, Campbell's no joke. He's not a bum. He's a great boxer, got some pop, you know what I mean? But yeah, Garcia versus Teofimo, man. That if you get Garcia in his top form and Teofimo in his top form, the only way it's not a great fight is if Garcia can't handle Lopez's power. Because I tend to think that Teofimo can handle Garcia's power. And I also think Garcia can handle Teofimo's power, but I think that's the only way it's not a banger. Because I think either one of them can knock the other out. I just want to see what happens when Teofimo lands like a real sharp punch right on Garcia's chin. And we got to see the same thing, you know, the same on the Teofimo end. You know, but that's I think that's a crazy fight, man. I mean, these are two of the best young fighters in the game right now. So we got to see that. Seth Stewart, my man Seth Stewart said, how are people saying Lenore? Bro, he's talking shit for the most part. You know what I mean? It's that he probably seen Haney get hurt. You know what I mean? Maybe he wanted Linares to win. He got saved by the bell a little, you know, got it together. So that's the thing to say. He got robbed. You know, he ain't serious, bro. You know what I mean? He ain't serious. Ryan used that excuse to duck fights. He took a fight 3 days later. Which fight? I don't know if he's back on the books for a fight right now. Cooper, is he? I could be wrong, but I don't think Ryan's on the books for a fight right now. He said a little something, then he booked the Fortuna fight, but then he said the mental health shit recently, and then I don't think he's on the books for another fight yet. I'm gonna double check real quick. You gotta make me double check because I want to make sure what we're working with here. Because I don't think he has another scheduled bout. I could be wrong. Let me check BoxRec real quick. Hold on. Let's peep this out real quick. Hold on. What are we doing? Ryan Garcia BoxRec. That's what I need to see. Why are you showing me this weird ass page? See what we got here, man. How the fuck tell me BoxRec ain't working? That shit don't even make sense. Ryan Garcia BoxRec. If you could tell me what fight he has back on the books right now, let me know. As far as I know, Ryan Garcia does not have a fight back on the books now. You know, and I think that's the whole situation where he said he wants to take the break to get his mind in order. I do not think he has another fight on the books. You got me checking for some. I don't know if my computer's bugging out or BoxRec is bugging out, but I need to know now if my man Garcia has a scheduled fight. Don't think he has a scheduled fight. Let's see if this computer wants to go back to working. All right. For some reason, BoxRec is acting silly right now. It might be because I'm streaming and all that, but I'm pretty sure Ryan Garcia does not have a fight scheduled right now. I think he left the Fortuna fight. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think he's ducking. Personally, I don't think he's ducking. Let's be honest. I like Ryan Garcia, right? Comes to skills, he's one of the most skillful boxers in the game, but it also isn't that surprising if he's saying, oh, I need to take a little time out. Like the strongest men at times can have mental health weakness, right? And Ryan Garcia, let's be honest, like, you know, he's a tough kid. He'll knock out a lot of people, probably even people 200 pounds in the street if it came down to it. You know what I mean? Probably might piece me up if it came down to it. I don't know. But he seems like a little bit, you know, he might be a sensitive kid in a certain way, you know, and I'm a sensitive dude in my own way, but some people are more sensitive. And it don't surprise me. You know what I mean? Like Tank, who he would surprise me a little more if he said something like that. I don't think we're super surprised by Ryan Garcia. He's going to get all that pretty boy money too. You know what I mean? He's a pretty boy. And I think that's part of what gives him the mental health issues within boxing. You know, he has a lot of, he's different, you know what I mean, than what boxers are considered a lot, you know, tough guys and this, that, you know, like he's a smart kid. He's a tough kid, but he also got the pretty boy angle and, you know, he's not a gritty dude. So I'm not, you know, it don't surprise me that much if he's saying, listen, you know, I want to get my head together and I'll knock it. And I don't think he's trying to avoid fights. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's like, fuck that shit. I ain't ready for these dudes. You know what I mean? that might be the case. You know, he might be like, listen, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm sad because I'm afraid Tank is gonna knock my face into not being pretty anymore. I don't know. It's very possible. That's also a very possible situation. You know what I mean? He didn't get robbed. If he would have landed that shot earlier that round, it's night for Haney, 100%. 100% El Campeon, 100%, my brother. It's not about body strength, but mental health. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, you know, and I don't think he's avoiding fights. My thinking from seeing, because I watched a bunch of his podcasts as well. You know, he has a pretty dope podcast. He talks to people, you know, and I don't know. I get the sense that it's legitimate and he literally just had some things he needs to work out, you know. Personally, I think it's possible, and I think knowing the type of dude he is, I think it's probable in a certain way. I don't, you know, it's not like he's not walking around pretending, you know, to be, you know, super thug or super gritty dude, you know? So I don't know, you know, we don't know. You don't know. I don't know. We could just guess at the end of the day. You know what I mean? But man, what did you guys also see the Nonito Donaire fight or no? Did you also catch that fight? Because right around when the Haney Linares fight was ending, it was like almost perfect. I slid right over to the Donaire Obali fight. And oh my God, bro. Donaire looked good, man. Donaire looked sharp. Donaire looked quick. He looked strong. You know, I think after his performance in the Inoue fight, forget proving us wrong. You know what I mean? We ain't in the ring. You know, we just talking shit, whether it's me on video, you in the comment section, me in the comment section with you. You know what I mean? We memeing and talking shit. We might know a lot about the sport depending on the person, but it's not about proving us wrong. I think Donaire proved a lot to himself in that Inoue fight. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was crazy, bro. I think he proved a lot to himself in that fight. You know, he went in there, Inoue's wiping through 90% of the division, 100% so far. You know, and Donaire gave him a hard fight. And I think Inoue was the right winner, was the rightful winner of the fight. But it was close enough where if Donaire took another round or two in that Inoue fight, if he had just a little more, he might have won that fight, you know, and that's the truth. Yeah, exactly. Nah, he's looked good. Yeah, especially in the past couple fights, he's like regained some of his, you know what it is? He went up in weight a bit, and I'm correct, right? I'm correct about that with Donaire. I believe he went up in weight for a little while, and he wasn't the same when he went up in weight a bit. I think this is where he should be. This is probably where he always should have been. You know what I mean? It was a draw. Haney didn't win. You know what I love? I love when I'm live right now and I get to see like the wild comment section from this viewpoint. Like it's funny as fuck. Like I know you're just talking shit, but yeah, Speedy Haney, hell yeah, man. Man, Haney looks so good for what? We got one round we take off. We got 10 seconds. So that's like 3 minutes. So he basically looked amazing for like 11 rounds. You know what I mean? He pretty much looked amazing for 11 rounds. You know, and then people want to take a lot of points off because he got hurt a bit at the end. And let's give Linares credit. Let's give Linares all the credit for almost turning it around. You know, exactly. Well, yeah, that's true too. He is that's the most amazing thing about Devin Haney is that this dude is 22 years old. Like, let's keep that in mind, right? And when he got hurt, he didn't show his age either. He got hurt, and he was doing all sorts of veteran shit. Most young fighters, if they get hurt, when they go into that next round, right? if they're still hurt and they start getting tagged or pressured, they're going to start wigging shots. They're going to do something silly, and they're going to get rocked again. He said, fuck that, right? He said, fuck that. He said, I'm going to hold this motherfucker until my legs are back. And then he held, and then, like, even when he wasn't holding, he was doing, like, little, slight little slick movements and pivots to keep himself from getting fucking cracked again. So he deserves credit for that. I don't take a lot of points away from that. We're talking about Jorge Linares. You can't take too many points away from Haney for that. You know what I mean? Linares was waiting to the end. I mean, listen, I first of all, listen, anybody who's on this right now or watching this, please like, share, subscribe, all that good shit, man. Anybody who knows me, I'm doing shit with comedy, with music. I'm trying to connect with other independent artists. I'm doing the boxing podcast. Like, I'm doing a lot of things to try to provide good content. So any support, I really appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Like, I'm not just saying it. I'm not just, hey, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Like, none of that corny. Just please help a motherfucker out. You know what I mean? Please. You know what I mean? My wife will leave me a little more, leave me alone a little more about the content, the more traction I continue to build. So I appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the true veteran move would been hug and fire a clear low blow to allow Linares a minute of rest by the ref. Listen, you ain't lying. AryanYudha, I don't know if that's Aryan the way, but Jesus, but AryanYudha, you're right. The true veteran move, hit him in the nuts, you know what I mean? Hit him in the huevos, you know what I mean? And then there you go. You got a minute or two. You lose a point, you good. He had enough points to give up, He compiled enough of a lead where he would have had no issue, giving a point away if he needed to. So you're right. That is the true veteran move, you know what I mean? Try to crack a couple huevos, make some egg salad, you know what I mean? God forbid, make a little egg salad. You ain't lying, bro. You're not lying. Another three round should be added because of Haney hugging and ducking too much. Jokey. Another 3 rounds should be added because of Haney hugging and ducking too much. Listen, I hear you. That shit is frustrating. You know what I mean? Especially if you're like strictly a Linares fan or just a person that wants to see a knockout. You know what I mean? I'm that kind of, and I was kind of going for both of them, so I didn't really have a dog in the race, but it's frustrating, right? But it's part of the game. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's part of boxing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's there. It's available to do. If you're hurt, you got to do what you got to do. If you were in a street fight, right, and a dude rocked you, and your best defense mechanism is to hold him until you feel a little better and then try to come up with something or try to tackle him, you're going to do it, right? In boxing, you don't have tackle to your ability. You don't have those other things. So your only defense mechanism, if you're really hurt like that, is like my man said before, crack some huevos, hit him in the nuts, or hug. Unfortunately, that's that's the nature of the beast. Ryan Gar said he will sleep Devin Haney. Yeah. Ryan got knocked out. Listen, it's very possible Ryan Garcia could sleep Devin Haney. That's very possible. That's not like something that's outside the realms of reality. I think Haney is gonna still develop more power as he goes. I think he's gonna not only develop more power, some of the guys he's working with too. Like, I think him working with Ben Davison, somebody's like, so some guys he's working with, I think he's gonna learn leverage better. In this fight, Haney, he always stays in the pocket. He's not a runner. I would never call him a runner. He stays kind of in the pocket, but in this fight, he really stayed in the pocket, and he was slipping and dipping, and it wasn't a lot of footwork using the whole ring. You know what I mean? It was more of the in the pocket, in out, slick, whoop, whop, 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 you know what I mean? Coming back, whop, whoop, slick shit. You know what I mean? So, I think he's going to develop more power. So I think he can knock out most guys. I think Ryan Garcia, I mean, the kid showed nothing but power, on counter shots, so I wouldn't discount that happening, I really wouldn't. But, both of these guys are a little bit of a proven commodity now, right? Now, Garcia proved himself a little bit as a commodity after the Luke Campbell win, a big, true, nice win, good name, and now Haney has certified himself with a nice, or I think better win. I think this might be a better win than Campbell, and not just because Head to head, Linares beat Campbell, right? Yeah. Head to head, Linares beat Campbell. And I'm not saying it for that reason. I just think Jorge Linares has more skills overall than Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell might be a better traditional boxer, but Jorge Linares has more overall skills and weapons than Luke Campbell. So I think Haney proved himself even a little more than Garcia, but they're still both unproven to a degree. We're not going to see how proven these guys are till they all fight each other. Tank, Teofimo, Ryan, till all the Haney, till all these guys fight each other, we're not really truly going to know who's who. I want to see what Lomachecko looks like. He's fighting the dude. I can't remember his name. If someone can remember his name, please type it in the comment section here. As I hate when I don't give fighters their credit. But Lomachecko is fighting the only guy who really gave Teofimo a little trouble next. So let's see what Lomachecko looks like against him. If Lomachecko washes him, we see Lomachecko still got plenty left. Now you got 4 or 5 guys all around that weight class that are all beasts or future beasts. You know what I mean? One's a legend already, Hall of Famer. You got a couple that are on their way and a couple that we got to see how much further they're going to go. You know what I mean? He looked good. He looked good to the 6th round, but Linares started catching him more. He was building up the pressure and stuff for that punch. He just hit that power shot at the end of the round. Just unlucky timing. Yeah. El Campeon 22. Or El Campeon 22. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he was looking better, like really, really good and dominant past the 6th round. I would argue, I would say around the 5th or 6th round, Linares started landing a little more of his power shots, a little more often, but still not often enough. You know what I mean? And even the shot that he landed that you said was unlucky at the end of the 10th, even in that round, like they never came enough, pause. But they never came enough. Like he just wasn't coming enough. He wasn't coming enough. He wasn't busting enough. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But he wasn't. The power shots were not coming often enough. And that's the problem. That's the problem. When you got a guy who's working off the jab, who's bullying you at times, he was dominant, I think, up until when it happened, really. I mean, what did you have it? El Campeon 22. Or I don't know if it's El Campeon or El Campeon 22. I don't want to, let me know, brother. You can hit me on the side and let me know how to pronounce it properly. But what score did you have it at the end of the 9th round? So the end of the 10th round is when Linares hurt Haney, right? The end of the 10th and 11th round is when Haney was on wobbly legs. So don't count the 10th round. Up until the 9th round, what was your score? Because I'm pretty sure my score, if I look at it, because I write it down like round by round and give a little, so I try to not be biased or be like, oh, well, no, now I'm giving them 3. I try to like write it down round by round. So this way I don't get crazy. Because after the 9th, bro, I had it 8-1 Haney. Going into the 10th round. So I thought he was dominating most of it, or at least winning. Maybe he wasn't as dominant as he was in rounds 1 through 5 and 6. I can maybe agree with that a bit. Wasn't quite as dominant from 6 through 10, but he was still winning pretty much every round, I would say. Aryan is, all right, let's see. My man, AryanYudha, or Yudha, is a Sanskrit, nothing to do with white boys. Oh, me strictly Sanskrit. No, okay. So my man AryanYudha is not an Aryan Nation person. So I think we could all be happy for that. I think that's a good thing. He's a West Indian brother. You know what I mean? I look like an Aryan Nation kind of dude, but I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm from New York, so I'm gonna clarify that. I don't want no confusion. You know what I mean? I don't have any I don't have any bad tattoos that are like burned off or nothing. I promise. What we got? My man Prince Apps said Haney should be hugging. It's a big fight. Do you want to win or not? Yeah, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that from my man Prince Apps. At the end of the day, you gotta hug. Sometimes it's hug or die. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's hug or die. And it was hug or die for Haney for an entire round. And then I'll argue at the end of the 12th. I don't know if everyone noticed it. It looked like Linares hurt him a little bit again. And then like the last like 30 seconds or so, Haney was back on that bullshit a little bit. But listen, I'm gonna do the same fucking thing, bro. I'm a bear hug you. I'm a bro hug you. You know what I mean? Whatever other hug nicknames, I'm gonna do all that shit. Straight up. Ryan, my man AryanYudha said Ryan, Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, and Tank Davis all stop Devin Haney. Devin is too weight drained at 135. He got to move up to 140, see if the chin improves. He cannot hug. Oh, he cannot hug. See, now I got hug in my brain. He cannot hang with the best at 135. I think that's possible. I think what you're saying is because Haney, even though he's like lean, you know, he does have, you know, a little more width and shoulders, and yeah, I think he's drained at 135. I don't think Teofimo is great at 135 either, though. I think Teofimo is going to end up at 140 sooner than later too. I think Ryan Garcia will end up there eventually. Tank, I mean, Tank is fighting at 140 against Barrios. So honestly, pretty much every guy you just named there, Garcia, Lopez, Tank, Devin, all of them are going to end up being 140 fighters, and a couple of them are probably going to be 147 pounders sooner than later. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. You know, I think what you're saying is possible. I think, but the thing is, like, I'm not ready to see if his chin improves, though. I'm not ready to say that Haney's chin needs to improve per se. I think he got caught with a good punch, and let's see what happens. It's one of the first times we've seen him hurt. You know, he didn't go down. Ryan Garcia, you know, he went down, you know, was less hurt, though. I will say that, though. Like, Haney was legitimately hurt. So we'll see. You might be right. You know, his chin might not be what it needs to be to continue to beat some of these guys. You might be 100% right. The best fight that will happen is Caleb Plant versus Canelo. Who you got? Oh, man. I mean, listen, if we're being completely honest, it's very hard to pick anybody but Canelo right now within anywhere in that weight division. Even I don't know if he can make 160 again, but anybody at 160, 168, not many guys at 175. We both know that Kovalev fight was just perfect for him. He's not going to fight better Biev and Bivol and all those guys. Maybe in the future, he might be like, all right, fuck it. Now I cleaned out 160, 168, defended a bunch of times after I cleaned it out. Now I'm going to go there. But this is what I will say about Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, to me, is a better version of a Billy Joe Saunders, or maybe even an Austin Trout. You know, we got to see what he looks like against the top guys, Caleb Plant. But, you know, not better than Lara yet. You can't say he's better than Arizandre Lara. But he has all of the skills of the guys that tend to give Canelo problems at times, except the only guy who actually gave Canelo problems and arguably beat him twice, definitely beat him once, Triple G. You know, that's the only guy that was able to, like, you know, go forward and pressure Canelo and not, you know, end up getting, you know, demolished for doing so, basically, you know, aside from Floyd, but, you know, that's a whole different type of fight. So obviously I'm going to pick Canelo initially, but I do think that Caleb Plant, if he has more heart than Billy Joe Saunders, and I'm not saying Billy Joe Saunders not having heart because of the eye situation, Billy Joe Saunders could have done more in that fight, period. You know what I mean? If Billy Joe would have, but he knew, you know, he knew what he was doing. He knew the risk he was taking every time he tried to do a little more. And he knew something, and then look what ended up happening. The guy literally had his face reconstructed from a punch. You know what I mean? That was slick, though, man. The way he came up with, like, right at the same moment his head was down, and oh man, that was slick by Canelo. You know, Canelo's look better and better in every fight he's ever fought in. You know, so it's hard to pick against the guy. But I think if Caleb Plant handles his power and lets his hands go, he has a chance to win. But both of those things have to happen. He has to handle Canelo's power, and it's, you know, it's collective power with Canelo. He's not a big one-punch guy, even though people think he is. He's not a one-punch guy. He does it at times, but he's more of a cumulative power puncher, just strong puncher more than a power puncher. You know what I mean? But if he can handle his power, have enough pop to make Canelo respect him, and let his fucking hands go, man. You got to let your hands go. If you don't let your hands go, you're not going to win against Canelo, period. The one guy who really gave him trouble and really, truly, arguably beat him, it was because he let his hands go, because he wasn't afraid to take shots. He stayed in the pocket with Canelo, got hit plenty of times, but he wasn't afraid to exchange. You know what I mean? But Plant has a chance. He has a better chance than people, I think, he has a better chance than people are giving him credit for. Loma fighting, that's my man. Nakatani, that's who Loma's fighting. He's fighting Nakatani. And Nakatani is the one guy outside of Loma, because Loma in the second half of the Teofimo fight gave Teofimo a bunch of problems, you know what I mean? But Teofimo had a great 12th round in that fight, and that's probably what sealed it for sure. But Nakatani, and if I'm wrong, correct me on this, but I'm 90% sure that's the dude that Teofimo had a lot of trouble with. That was the first fight with people seen with Teofimo Lopez, and they were like, oh, maybe he's not what he's supposed to be. Then he came out, the next fight looking spectacular again. You know what I mean? But so let's see what Loma looks like against once again, Nakatani. Because Nakatani's no joke. He just caught, isn't he? Is he the dude who knocked out Verdejo? That sent that fucking wife-killing trash bag back to the PR for life? That what a scumbag Verdejo turned out to be, huh? Killed his pregnant wife, man. This dude killed his pregnant wife. Now we know, right? Verdejo looked like a great prospect at one point, right? We thought he might be the next Cotto, the next Trinidad, the next big Puerto Rican star from had the look, had the skills early on, got starched a couple times, started looking good again, got starched again by a guy who's not even a power puncher at that, you know what I mean? And it turns out killed his fucking pregnant wife. I'm pretty sure that's the main detail. You know what I mean? You don't need to know much more than that. So, now they say karma is not a real thing, but his career went the way it went for a reason. Probably because he was never focused on his career because he's a piece of shit. But you know what I mean? But yeah, Nakatani's no joke. He has a lot of skills, man. What else? Yeah, so keep the chat room going, man. I didn't see the most of the Mateus fight. I did see some of it because it conflicted with the main event with Haney and Linares, but I do know he won. I do know Mateus won, and but I think it was a close fight. I'm pretty sure it was a very close fight, and I'm 90% sure he won. Double check that, but I did see a few rounds, and it was a close fight. I do know that. When I was watching it, like, it was very back and forth. I think from what I seen and what I heard in the commentary I was listening to, I got to watch it fully, but I think it was saying like it could have went. It was a could have went either way kind of fight from what I gathered. He was scared to go in and getting caught, but at the same time, my man Al Campion said again, he was scared to go in and getting caught, but at the same time, he tried to keep a distance and going in, but not confident enough to let the punch go. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, because you know what it is, man. He just like Haney kept that stick, pause. He kept that stick in his face the entire night, and then even when he wasn't keeping the stick in his face, he was for the most of the night able to stand in front of Linares and still not let Linares get off with clean shots. So, I mean, like, Haney showed a lot of skills in this fight, man. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of styles, a lot of skills. So to completely discredit him or make him seem like, like, I'm not saying you guys are doing that necessarily, but I'm sure some people will. And the crowd was booing, which is fucking atrocious. To discount everything else he did for the other 11 rounds and 59 seconds, is fucked up. You know what I mean? Because he did put on a hell of a performance. What about my man Assad? My man Assad R. Talk to me, bro. Ask me a next question. Don't let the room be dead either. Help me out, brother. And please subscribe. I appreciate you guys a lot, for real. What about Teo versus Taylor? Man, let me tell you, man. Josh Taylor, who I kind of believed in prior to the Jose Ramirez fight. I seen his skills. I seen what he did against Prograis. I personally think Prograis is the second best fighter in that division. You know what I mean? Third best. I think if him and Taylor fight 10 times, it's 5-5 maybe or 6-4, but Taylor versus Teo is interesting because I seen something in the Prograis fight, but I seen even more of it in the Ramirez fight. And part of it might be because Ramirez, isn't as traditional with the way he delivers punches and the way he comes in and rushes and throws a lot of looping shots at times. You know what I mean? But Taylor, man, I always look, and you'll hear me talk about this over and over. When boxers punch, what I say, inside the box, right? Those are the guys a lot of the time. Like, there's guys who can also punch out the box more and more looping and all that, and they could do both, some boxers, you know what I mean? But the guys who can do that, like Canelo's an example of that, you know, Taylor's an example of that, Crawford's an example of that. Those guys that really punch inside the box are special because everything's straight and it comes at the right angles and it lands in the perfect spots. And, you know, he looked great. He looked great in that Ramirez fight. You know, Ramirez did some good body work, and it was, you know, it wasn't a complete wash, but Taylor dominated. Teofimo versus Taylor is a fight, man. That's a fight. You know, that fight would have to happen, I think, soon, though, because I think Taylor is about ready to go to welter. He's about ready to go to 147, whereas I think Teofimo's still going to take a little while to work his way up to that weight and being fully competitive at 147. I think that's still a year and a half away, maybe. But that's right now. I don't know, man. I might favor Teofimo. I might not. But Taylor, you know, that was a hell of a performance. So far, he has great performances against Prograis, who was a champ and is highly skilled and talented, and a great performance against Ramirez, who's another one, another top 140 pounder. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. That's a hell of a fight. Who do you pick in that fight? Who you rocking with? I might favor Teofimo right now still, you know, because I think Teofimo just has a little more of the explosive power and more of the untraditional stuff that I don't think Taylor can do. Even though he's great at punching in the box, Teofimo punches in the box for the most part too, and he's more athletic and funky. And you know, I think that could end up getting Taylor in trouble because I think he'll work him into a shot, you know, often, you know, and maybe put him out. But I don't know. That's a hell of a fight though. But I think Taylor's a naturally bigger guy, so that makes it skew a little bit in his direction as well. My man Johan. Caleb Plant has a better chance of winning. He is just as good, but also Canelo says, don't worry about how fast, but how strong. Yeah, listen, Caleb Plant has a great chance of winning. He does have a great chance of winning that fight. From what I've seen from Caleb Plant so far, yes. But we've not seen Caleb Plant against anyone on Canelo's level. We haven't seen Caleb Plant even against the Brandon Jacobs, Jesus Christ, Danny Jacobs kind of guy. You know what I mean? We haven't even seen him against, you know, those type of guys yet. So this is his first. If he fights Canelo, for sure, bro, this is a huge step up. So we got to see what he looks like against Canelo. And if he looks like he's looked against everyone else against Canelo or better, hell yeah, definitely has a chance. I think it's a KO by a body shot. He just needs to worry about that. So you think Plant knocks out Canelo by a body shot? That's interesting. That's interesting. And I think that's possible, man, because you don't see a lot of people do work on Canelo's body, man. You know, you don't see that happen often. So, you know, that's interesting. And Caleb Plant, he does do good body work, you know. So that man, listen, make sure you keep in contact with me, because if that ends up happening, that's a hell of a prediction, bro. Verdejo killed, yeah. Felix Verdejo killed his pregnant mistress, allegedly on the orders of his wife. Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, that's right. His wife put the hit out. Jesus Christ. So imagine, think about all the pieces of shit going on in that situation. You got Verdejo, who's cheating on his wife, got a mistress pregnant, and then the wife is like, okay, listen, everything's okay, but you fucking murdered that bitch. And then he murders the pregnant mistress. And then what? They thought they weren't going to get caught. And then the bitch who put the hit out, who was the innocent person initially, right? Prior to the murder, she's the innocent one. She got cheated on. This piece of shit cheated on his wife, pregnant mistress. She's the innocent one so far. She could have walked with all her cards up high, took his money, whatever, because he made some money from boxing. He probably definitely made a few $1 million minimum, you know, could have took half that, bounced, you know what I mean? Been good, been the innocent person, but nah, let's kill this pregnant mistress, man. Jesus Christ, man. That shit is heavy. All right. But also don't forget the scumbag of the mistress initially, right? So you got 3 scumbags, right? But unfortunately, now one of the person who did something fucked up, if she knew, assuming she knew about the wife, which I'm sure she did, Verdejo is borderline famous in Puerto Rico. You know what I mean? He's not super known in the United States, but he's very well known there. So she fucked up. The wife was innocent, and then it turns out now this woman, poor woman, gets killed pregnant, man. And she becomes the worst victim of them all, even though her actions played a role in it just a bit, sadly. You know what I mean? So what do we got here? My man AryanYudha said Teo struggled against a tall Nakatani. So same situation with Teo versus Taylor. So I would favor Taylor by body stoppage late. Yeah. I think that's possible. But what is the height difference? What is the height difference between Teofimo, right? Teofimo Lopez height. Let's check out his height. And we'll go Josh Taylor. He's 5'8", so he's not super short for 140, 147. Josh Taylor. He's only bro, Taylor's only 5'9". So there's not, I didn't think there was that extreme of a height disparity. So that's not a huge height. That's only an inch. I mean, listen, most guys that say they're 5'8", or 5'7", but most guys that say they're 5'9", or 5'8" and change. Guilty motherfucker. Nah, but I'm 5'9", for sure. But what's my man's name again? Give me my Asian brother's name again so I could Google his height, because I want to see the difference between. So all right, Nakatani. So Nakatani height. Right. So Nakatani is box rec. Let's see my man's height real quick so we can see. Was that really a big difference in height either? But it was a difference in length no matter what. No matter how you cut it, it was a difference in length. And I do agree that Taylor's definitely longer. Even if he's only an inch taller, there's probably more of a difference in reach if you looked at it. I can't even find it. This is how fucked up. So is that say 5'11"? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Nakatani, it looks like he's listed at 5'11" and a half. So 5'11" and a half to 5'8", that's 3 inches and change. You know what I mean? That's pretty significant. Well, Taylor's listed at 5'9". You know what I mean? He might be 5'10". He very well might be 5'10". You know what I mean? And when we see them close to each other, next to each other, like in a press conference, we'll really get to see, because I think we all know when you look up heights online, a lot of the time it's bullshit. You know what I mean? First of all, people fudge their height all the time, from boxing to the NBA. I mean, you see it to regular men. Men just do that shit. You know what I mean? We lie. Motherfuckers lie about their height since they were 14. You know what I mean? So I don't know. He's listed at 5'9". Teofimo's listed at 5'8". I do agree that Taylor's long and lanky and will present similar problems to Nakatani. I do definitely agree with that. Teo did struggle bad against Nakatani, but I also would say that when these guys are so young, man, you know what I mean? 21, 22, 23, 24 even, and they're learning as they go in the ring, I'm not quick to put a stamp judgment like, oh, this is my judgment of them based upon those learning fights. If you see them have the same struggles against 2-3 guys that look the same or have the same build or the same skills, then I think there's a pattern more. Or if you see it in older fighters, then you could develop the pattern quicker. But these guys are just coming up. They're learning on the job, a lot of these dudes, against high-level boxers. So that might have just been a learning fight. You know what I mean? And the next time you see him against a tall, lanky opponent, he might have a completely different, strategy, and he might come out looking different. Could be wrong, but, it's hard to put a final stamp on shit when these guys are so young. Same thing with Haney, He might not get hurt for 3 fights now. We don't know. You know what I mean? Ramirez made the mistake of rushing in. Call me crazy, but I like Taylor. Santiago R. Lizares, my brother. Appreciate the comment. Please subscribe. I appreciate you. Ramirez made the mistake. Yeah, Ramirez, well, part of the reason he was making those mistakes is he came out wanting to be aggressive. You've seen it. That was in his mind from the beginning of the fight, Jose Ramirez versus Josh Taylor, right? But Taylor also did things to make him have to rush in and be a little reckless. Taylor was was doing a very similar thing that Haney was doing, but just not as athletically, where he was controlling just a circle. You know what I mean? With the jab, with subtle movement, with footwork that you probably don't, that a lot of people won't even notice. And it was making Ramirez, because he couldn't get him in a traditional way, right? He wasn't able to get him in a traditional way. So he ended up having to come with the crazy shots. He was doing some great body work. If Ramirez never got away from the body work and just kept pounding on the body work against the ropes with Taylor, I think if he put more money in the bank, he would have stood a better chance later in the fight, because Taylor took his feet off the accelerator a little bit towards the end of the fight. So if Ramirez put a little more, water in the well earlier in the fight with body shots, it might have paid more dividends. You know what I mean? So, but I like Taylor a lot. I didn't like Taylor as much before this fight. I gave him some credit for what he did against Prograis. I still think Prograis can beat him. I think it's very possible. But this fight, I just saw just such crisp boxing technique. You know what I mean? He showed such crisp boxing technique in the fight against Ramirez. It was I'm not saying he's on Crawford's level by no means yet. He's not even near that proven. It hasn't showed those type of skills in enough fights, but it was very, Crawford-esque in a way, using good reach. Everything was coming straight. Everything was coming slick. You know what I mean? Pause. So yeah, I like Taylor a lot too, Santiago. What I mean? Especially after that fight, he showed me a lot. So yeah, maybe Taylor is 5'10". He might very well be 5'10". You might be 100% right on that. You might be 100% right on that. Tio wants to fight. He says his natural is 140. This is my man Joe Key. If you're a man, if you're not, my apologies. Tio wants to fight. He says his natural weight is 140, but still have Kambosos and Haney to fight. He says Taylor running and would rather fight Crawford. I think Tio would be less embarrassment than beatably by Tio. So you're saying Tio saying that Taylor's scared. That's why he's running up to fight Terrence Crawford, but still have Kambosos and Haney. Yeah, Kambosos and Haney, that's an interesting fight. You know what I mean? Because that'll be at 135 as well. It's we'll see what Tio does with him. We gotta see what Tio does with him first, because this is the type of fight, right? If Teofimo Lopez is going to continue to be what he seems like he might be, which is like a true gifted superstar, future superstar with the skills to back up. And I like his personality too. I think Teofimo's funny. He's confident, but he's not arrogant unless you push him. I like him in interviews. You know what I mean? All that good shit, So, I don't know. We got to see. But, so that's what I'm saying. This fight is a fight that Teofimo should wipe dude out, right? That's what Teofimo Lopez should do to Kambosos. That's what we want him to do. But I don't think Kambosos is a pushover like people think. A lot of these guys that come from overseas, people don't know them, so they discount them. And a lot of times these guys are, number one, they got heart. UK fighters, Australia, well, them dudes got heart, man. Like Mexican fighters and like that, that side of the world, man, those are filled with nothing but heart, those type of fighters. You know what I mean? And they come from very technical boxing. You know what I mean? So, and that's the one guy that even though he was tall, and that was part of the issue with Tio, but Kambosos is a little taller and he has boxing skills, which could give Teofimo, but I don't know. Teofimo looked great against Lomachecko. You could argue that Lomachecko didn't do shit the first 6 rounds, so it's easy to look great. I'm not going to deny that either, but Teofimo should blow Kambosos out the water, technically, right? If he's what he says he is, this is the type of fight he's going to do that, right? When De La Hoya was coming up, when Mayweather was coming up, when these guys that Mosley, you name it, these guys that became money drawers and superstars, right? Those type of fights, those are the type of fights that they're wiping the guy. They're wiping him. They're washing him. You know what I mean? Either beating him by decision, embarrassingly, or knocking him out. Unless you get towards the end of De La Hoya's career when he barely beat Steve Forbes before he fought Pacquiao. But, that's a different De La Hoya. You know what I mean? Beaten by Crawford. Okay, so all right, so this is what Jokey, to clarify. He said beaten by, okay. Now I get what you're saying, Jokey. You're saying the reason Teofimo saying the reason he's going after Crawford is because if he loses to Crawford, if Josh Taylor loses to Terrence Crawford, it's not a big deal in a way. It's Terrence Crawford. He lost to a pound-for-pound great right now, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the game. Not a big deal. He's going up in weight. It's almost like, if he loses, it's expected in a certain way. People will make excuses for him. So you're right. You're right. That does make sense. You know what I mean? If Teofimo beats him, it's more in his weight division. If anything, Teofimo's the smaller guy. So if Teofimo happens to beat Taylor, it's more of a scar on his record, you know? So yeah, I agree with that too. I can see that viewpoint. What else we got here? Ramirez had no plan B or C. That is probably Robert Garcia's fault. Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. Ramirez, but here's the devil's advocate argument to that is he had no plan B or C because he just didn't have the skills to have a plan B or C against Josh Taylor. And Josh Taylor just had the better skills that night. Now, maybe Robert Garcia could have done more in his corner, you know, to strategy-wise, maybe come up with a different strategy on the fly. But we all know that the greatest fighters, most of the time, they come up with a good strategy on the fly when they're in the ring, when they're in the middle of a fight. So, you know, I think you could blame Garcia to a degree. I remember Ramirez in the post-fight, Jose Ramirez said some slick shit. He was like, yeah, you know, they made adjustments. He's got a great corner, you know, and I think that might have been a little subtle dig at Robert Garcia. So you might have a point there. You know what I mean? Forget Taylor beating Crawford. I think Boots Ennis beats Crawford right now. See, AryanYudha, yo, man. Ennis looks good, man. Ennis looks fucking good. My man Ennis looks great right now, but hasn't fought anybody yet. He's getting there now. You know what I mean? He's getting close now. He's fighting guys that are almost there. Do you think he's ready for Crawford right now? Because right now, with what's going on with Crawford, we're going to lose his prime anyway. So he might be better off fighting Crawford in another year and a half. You know, hopefully Crawford's skills regress a little bit, or he doesn't continue to get better because he's not fighting guys better than him or on the same level as him. So I don't know. Is Ennis ready for Crawford right now? I think that's a very interesting thought experiment, because I don't know if Ennis is ready yet. I really don't. He might be. All the skills are there, the power's there, the technique is there. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. So listen, I don't know if you guys got any more questions or you want to keep the questions going. I'll definitely stay on the live for a minute. I just want to say thank you to everyone who stuck around, asked me questions. Please follow me on what you see going across the screen there. At Focus CDS on Instagram. That's like my social commentary, you know, pop culture commentary, boxing commentary, MMA commentary, you know, things along those lines. You'll see hip hop from me and other independent talent that I know. I use that as a platform. I'm going to be using that to, promote independent talent and small businesses as well. At Whitest Guy, that's my comedy account. I do character comedy, you know, things along those lines. Some of it's a little edgy. You know, I get silly, I get crazy, I get philosophical, all that dumb shit. That's what comedy's supposed to be. You know, citydon'tsleep.com, you can connect with everywhere, you know, that I'm connected on social media wise. I am going to be updating the website on a regular basis soon. There's a lot of stuff on there already. Please subscribe to this channel. You guys are doing me a favor. You're helping me grow. You know, I'm just a dude who rhymes and does comedy and loves boxing and loves talking deep conversations. And I just want to entertain people, educate people at times, and engage with whatever audience I have here. And any support you give me is highly appreciated, and I will return it in any way that I can. So, all right, hold on. Before I break out, let me see what my man Santiago R. Lazarez, he said, coming back to Haney, I might be mistaken, but fighters usually lose power when they go up in weight. Not saying that's going to happen to Haney, but it is something to consider when he does move up. Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on the fighter, right? It depends, because sometimes when guys move up in weight, they're moving up in weight because they're too drained and they're having a hard time making the weight that they're currently at, right? So if that's the case, usually they gain power because you're actually making yourself weaker by having to cut weight to go to an unnatural weight in order to compete, or, you know, you think that's your more natural weight as a fighter. Now, if you're going up in weight just because you're busting everybody's ass, you know, like Chocolatito did, or you know, fucking Crawford, or you know, you name it, man. You name it. You know what I mean? There's hundreds of examples. I could sit here and really rack my brain and think of a bunch, but there's a lot of guys who are champions and dominate. Lomachecko lost some of his power when he went up. You know, Nonito Donaire lost some of his power, but they went up because they didn't have enough competition in the weight classes they were in. So in those situations, unless you work on strength and build specific muscle and work with strength and conditioning, those guys at times can lose power. But, you know, it depends. It all depends. Every fight is different, you know. So I think it really depends when it comes to that situation. Haney seems to have mediocre power as of now anyway. So you would hope that he's having a hard time making the weight he's at now, 135, moves to 140, is not draining himself. Maybe he'll gain power. That's what we'll hope with Haney, because he's shown power at times, but he hasn't shown to be a power puncher per se as of yet. But I also think you could work on that with technique. You could work on that with certain supplements, certain meals, certain strength and conditioning. So he can add power, you know. He doesn't, yeah, I feel like you feel on that, Santiago. I don't think he looks weight drained. Somebody earlier did say that he looked weight drained. I gotta, well, let me double check, because I want to make sure we get the conversation right. I don't know, it might be too hard to find right now. I can't remember exactly. If you're still here, chime back in. But somebody earlier did say he looked weight drained, Haney. I don't know if I agree with that yet. On the scale for this fight, he looked a little less comfortable than he's looked in his other fights. Slightly arguable for this fight. I didn't see that in the past. So, yeah, I lean a little more towards you. And I don't think he was running out of gas necessarily in this fight either. I just think he did so much for he was so sharp for those first 10 rounds and 50 seconds, 55 seconds, you know, that it's almost impossible at this age, at 22 years old, to continue to be that sharp the whole 12 rounds. Luckily, Linares hit him with 4 seconds left, 3 seconds left, 2 seconds left even, rather than 20 seconds left, because we might be having a whole different conversation right now if that was the case. But give him credit. He survived. You got to give a guy credit when he survives like that. You can't, you know, can't shit on him too much for that. You know what I mean? Do you think Taylor has enough competition at 140? It depends, right? If these guys move up, right? I mean, Tank versus Barrios, right? Isn't that fight at 140? That fight's at 140. So Tank versus Barrios, the winner of that could be fighting Josh Taylor. Maybe Josh Taylor don't want that smoke. You know, I know Tank's a little guy, but Tank is, man, we got to see. This is one thing I'll say about Tank, though, right? And him going up to fight Barrios at 140. We got to see what Tank looks like when he's the smaller guy, right? Because he's the bigger guy against Santa Cruz, even though he's not the bigger guy in stature and height. He's the bigger guy, bigger frame. He's fought most guys as the bigger guy so far. So if he fights Taylor, and when he fights Barrios, he's not the bigger guy anymore. So I'm really interested to see what Tank looks like against Barrios. And then Tank versus Taylor, bro, that's a huge fucking fight. I'll take all my money for that shit. I'm watching that shit all day, bro. So what do we got? So who else does Taylor have? I think if these guys start moving up, he has plenty of competition there. But I think it's going to, and it's not only about competition, right? It's about competition that is worth him struggling to make 140 for. Because all the names are at 147 still, right? There's a lot of names at 135. There's a lot of names at 147. There's not a lot of big names at 140. The biggest other name at 140, I would argue, would be Tank. And that's his first fight. I think he fought, no, did he fight at 140 once? Maybe fought at 140 once before, but I think that's his first fight at 140, but I could be wrong. So that's the biggest. So I don't think there's enough big names that are worth the risk as well as the weight cut for Taylor. So I think if he don't get a Tank Davis or one of these guys that we just mentioned earlier, Garcia, Teofimo, guys like that, I think he's going to go up to 147. That's my thinking on that. You know what I mean? San Diego, to me, he looks fresh, so I don't think he's having weight issues. Yeah. I mostly agree with you on that, Santiago. I think, yeah. Wait. Had. So wait, Joe Key, were you asking me, do I think Taylor had enough competition or has enough competition moving forward? Do you mean, did he fight enough competition yet? I mean, if you meant that, Prograis is also at 140 still. We can't discount that, I don't know. He has 2 good wins, bigger names at 147. Just in case you mean that, I'll cover both bases. You know what I mean? I think he goes up to 147 unless he gets a good payday for a Prograis rematch or a Tank fight. The winner of Tank versus Barrios versus Taylor, especially if it's Tank, that'll be good. That'll be good for boxing too. My man AryanYudha said Taylor has beaten everyone of note except Zepeda, who looked trash. Yo, Zepeda looked terrible. I've seen him look good in the past, but he looked fucking terrible. I mean, listen, I love Hank Lundy. He's a great journeyman. I probably first seen Hank Lundy fight for the first time a decade ago. You know what I mean? And he has some skills. He's not a bum. You know what I mean? But, it's one of those fights like we were talking about with Teofimo and Samboso, whatever the fuck his name is. It's a similar situation. You're supposed to beat those guys. Supposed to beat that guy. Not because he's special, just because he's supposed to be in another class. Teofimo, he's special, and he's supposed to be in another class. You know what I mean? But yikes. So, yeah, he has to move up. I agree. I think Taylor has to move up to 147. I agree. But Tank Davis, if he wins, that's going to be interesting. If they offer him enough money, because this is what I don't understand. Because I think Tank is also fighting for the belt at 140, right? So what fucking belt is that if Taylor is undisputed? This is fucking too many damn belts, man. Taylor versus Mikey Garcia at 147 could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. See, the problem with Mikey Garcia, man, is like, he should just, if I was him, if he could still make 140, I'd go back down to 140 and try to get paydays against these dudes as they come up. You know what I mean? Teofimo, but it might be risky. But Mikey Garcia is not competing against most top welterweights. Taylor being a 140 pounder coming up, that could be a hell of a fight. And you know what? That's a great first fight for Taylor to introduce himself to the welterweight division. So that's an interesting fight. And it's also a fight to see, how does Mikey Garcia look against a guy who's a top guy, but not regarded as the top yet, who is smaller than welterweights for the most part. And let's see if Mikey could get back to like special Mikey, because Mikey, we all know how special Mikey Garcia looked when he was on his way up. You know what I mean? Special. Yeah. Yeah. Taylor versus Mikey Garcia. Totally agree. I meant had to be undisputed. Yeah. I think 140. Yeah. I mean, Jokey, I don't disagree with that. I think it was one of the easiest divisions for anyone to clean out. You know what I mean? So I think, it's not like he has like, but listen, but also let's not discount Prograis and Ramirez, man. They are both really, really high level 140 pounders that give anybody we just named, every fighter we just named, the top, those top guys, those big names, prospects, guys that are like pretty much there now. Teofimo, Tank, Haney, Garcia, Lomachecko, if he looks good in his next fight. Ramirez and Prograis beats most of those guys. Lomachenko's never going up to 140. I don't think that'll happen. But Teofimo definitely is. Tank is already there, at least for this fight. Haney's definitely on his way. Ryan Garcia will be on his way. So Prograis and Ramirez, they at least give all those guys great fights. So I wouldn't discount what Josh Taylor did completely, because I think Ramirez and Prograis are high level. I just think Taylor is just sharper. He's at right around the same level, a little more, but just sharper than both of them. You know what I mean? That's my thoughts on that. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Taylor versus Mikey Garcia. I want to see that for sure. And I also agree, Joe Key, fairly easy division, but don't discount those wins because those are two nice wins, I think. Speaking of weight drains, yeah. Well, but you can't only say that about Zepeda, though, Santiago, because they were pointing it out early on, and I seen it early on, too. Like Hank Lundy, he looked like he had no legs from round one. So he must have been extremely weight drained if he couldn't do nothing to Lundy. But he wasn't even throwing enough punches either. Like, you know, and I think Bradley made a good point and everyone made a good point. In the fight before, how many times was he knocked down? 4 times or some crazy shit like that in the fight before? That's not an easy thing to recover from, man. You know, I never did nothing professional boxing wise. There's some, you know, backyard shit, gym shit like that. You know what I mean? But I played football a little bit when I was young. I mean, when you get concussed or knocked out, I've been knocked out, you know, not knocked out, but I got knocked down in the street in a couple street fights a couple times. You know what I mean? Fucking car accidents, football, hit my head all sorts of fucking crazy ways. You know, throughout my life. And like, you know, you're foggy in general, right? Like just in general, if you live in everyday life from head trauma, right? So imagine getting knocked out 4 times in the fight previous, you know what I mean? So maybe he comes back in the next fight and looks better. They were talking about him possibly getting a title fight at some point. When you look like that against hammering Hank Lundy, you ain't getting no title fight unless he comes back in his next fight, clears the cobwebs, makes weight, isn't weight drained at all, like you said, you know, because maybe that was a factor with Zepeda. And maybe he looks good. Maybe he looks great in his next fight. But, man, 4 knockdowns, that'll take a lot out of you. And not only 4, I think it was 8 knockdowns between the two of them. So emotional fight, you're knocking him down, he's knocking you, you know, like, so I don't know, man. I don't know, you know. We'll see what happens with Zepeda. Zepeda ain't shit anyway, no disrespect. He's a great boxer, and I don't take, all right, let me reframe that. I don't like saying any boxers. I don't like being one of those people. Oh, he's whack, or he ain't shit, because he's a professional boxer, and he's a very good boxer, Zepeda, and he's right below the A-level guys. You know what I mean? A couple pegs below the A-level guys. But when I say he ain't shit, I just mean, like, even if he gets his shit together a bit, he's not going to beat a Tank. He's not going to beat, you know, a Taylor. He's not going to beat a Prograis. He's just not going to beat those guys. So, you know, he might be a perennial contender and he might look better than he looked in his last fight, but I think we all know he's not going to be storming up no weight divisions. You know what I mean? But all right, listen, I'm going to wrap this up for now. I appreciate anybody who watched, whether you watched for 20 seconds or an hour. I appreciate you guys. Subscribe, hit me up, get me on Facebook, Cliff F. Wagner. You'll see my stupid ass face. You'll know it's me. Cliff, like Clifford F. Wagner. Catch me there. All right. Catch me on Instagram at the ones flashing below your screen. I appreciate all of you. I'm going to be doing a regular episode of Scrapper Tap on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Sometimes they'll be live. Sometimes they won't. That'll be covering all fight sports for the weekend. You know, a little bit for the weekend before fights, but more of a preview, some boxing news, some MMA news. And then I'm going to be going live after main events every Saturday. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate any support, any shares, any likes, any comments, and we'll chop it up soon. Much love.